Greetings, pagbati, mabuhay. I am Mong Palatino, Southeast Asia editor of Global Voices, and I'm based in Manila, Philippines. Welcome to the Global Voices Insights webinar series. And our topic today, or tonight, is about the coup and civil disobedience in Myanmar. Thank you to those who are watching the live stream on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch, and to all those who will be watching later. We'd like to especially greet our brothers and sisters from Myanmar who are watching this episode. If you are listening live or a recording of this episode, please do remember that many people around the world are one with you in your demand to restore civilian rule and civil liberties. For those who wanted to pose questions to our panelists, wherever you are watching, we will be able to see questions and comments from YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. Before we listen to the presentations of our invited speakers and testimonies from inside Myanmar, I will be giving an overview of the political situation in Myanmar, a brief context to the events that led to the coup in February. We hope to address these questions. First, what happened in Myanmar before the coup? Next, what happened during the coup? And third, what has been happening in the past? The citizen media platform, Global Voices, has endeavored to amplify the voices of Myanmar citizens by including testimonies and narratives in our reports. We also featured the work of independent media partners and groups to give a broader coverage of the situation in the country. Please visit the Global Voices website, globalvoices.org, and check our Myanmar special coverage. Myanmar was ruled by a military dictatorship for several decades until it adopted reforms which allowed a civilian government to take control in 2011. However, the 2008 constitution guaranteed parliament seats and other bureaucratic posts for the military, allowing it to retain influence in the government. In November 2015, the opposition party, National League for Democracy, clinched a historic landslide victory, sparking hope that it would consolidate Myanmar's democratic transition after decades of being under military rule. The military-backed Union Solidarity and Development Party, or USDP, lost in the election. But because of the 2008 constitution drafted by the military, certain positions in the cabinet and parliament were reserved for the military appointees. There was high expectation in the past decade for the NLD government, but it was criticized both in and out of Myanmar for failing to significantly reverse the country's human rights record. It was even accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice for its treatment of the country's Rohingya community. Activists expressed disappointment that the NLD government continued to use junta-era laws to harass critics and persecute human rights defenders, especially those exposing the abuses of the military. Fast forward to 2020, last year. Myanmar's general election took place on November 8th. Around 7,000 candidates from more than 90 parties competed for 1,171 legislative seats. As expected, the incumbent NLD went on to dominate the 2020 elections, confirming that it still enjoys the trust of a significant majority of the local population. Its international credibility might have suffered in recent years because of its human rights record, but for many voters, NLDs represented their yearning for the country's democratic transition. In summary, the military lost in 2015. It lost again in 2020. But this time around, it didn't accept its defeat. It accused the NLD of conspiracy and committing widespread or massive electoral fraud by citing alleged irregularities in voter lists. Election officials, however, disputed these allegations. Based on the reports of international observers, they described the recent election as generally peaceful and fair, although they monitored some problems, especially the disenfranchisement of voters in ethnic communities. After weeks of denying rumors of military takeover, Myanmar's military grabbed power on February 1. Myanmar's newly elected parliament members were supposed to convene a session on that day, February 1, to select the country's new president and vice president. Instead, the military seized power, imposed a year-long state of emergency, and detained key leaders of the NLD. The coup was rejected by NLD supporters and citizens who consider the actions of the military a reversal of the country's democratic transition. A civil disobedience movement, or CDM, was immediately launched to oppose the coup. Protesters have been using the three-finger salute as a symbol of resistance. This was taken from the Hollywood film Hunger Games and then adopted by pro-democracy protesters in Thailand, representing the protesters' demands for the rejection of the coup, the restoration of the elected members of the parliament, and the country's transition to democracy, including the rejection of the 2008 constitution drafted by the military. In response, Myanmar's military authorities have banned public gatherings of more than 5 people. They also imposed martial law in several townships. Internet connections have been intermittently disrupted up to this day. A foreign worker who gave a testimony to Global Voices before this webinar shared the importance of maintaining the communication lines open. And I quote, I asked Myanmar citizens about the difference between the current protest and the 888 protest in 1988 and the Saffron Revolution in 2007. They told me the big difference is now they have the technology and communication to coordinate their actions and to tell the world what is happening in Myanmar. End of quote. Because of the censorship and the climate of fear, there's no more privately owned or independent printed newspaper operating in the country since March. On February 22, thousands joined a general strike across Myanmar, organized to express opposition to the military government. After monitoring the protest movement in Myanmar, I could say it is rich with symbolisms. And this February 22 general strike has a lot of symbols for the protest movement. It was called 22222 or 5 twos in reference to the date, February 22, 2021. And the strike mobilized the biggest protest since the military grabbed power in February 1. On the next week, February 28, strike organizers called for another nationwide protest to recognize the support of Myanmar's to support the Myanmar's democracy movement has been receiving from the Thai and Hong Kong protesters linked to the Milk Tea Alliance protest movement. Ousted parliament members of the NLD formed a counter body called CRPH, or Committee Representing Hudang-Su Lutao, which reached an agreement with ethnic groups which came to be known as the National Unity Government, or NUG. The military intensified the use of violence as protests continued to challenge the coup. Terror tactics were deployed in residential communities. But the people of Myanmar have remained defiant. The regime has enforced a shoot-to-kill order policy directed at protesters, but the resistance has continued to gather support. What we witnessed in the past 3 months were daring and inventive actions launched by Myanmar citizens. In honor of their sacrifice, I deem it noteworthy to mention some of these unusual but creative and effective tactics. Aside from the general strike and the street protests challenging the police and military and security forces, we witnessed the candlelight protests and funeral protests for the funeral of martyrs of the protest movement. Every day, there's the banging of metal vessels in the homes of citizens. There is honking of car horns. There is a boycott of military owned businesses. During the first week, there was a resignation of medical frontline personnel who joined the civil disobedience movement or CDM. And then there is this very effective way to stop traffic and prevent government personnel from reporting for work. We saw protesters picking up onions and grains of rice from the asphalt road to create traffic. There is the car breakdown protest or the slow motion drive protest. There is the slowing down of traffic through the tying of laces campaign in pedestrian lanes. Citizens also launched a boycott lottery campaign to bring down the revenues of the military. Journalists conducted the anti-press conference campaign by boycotting the press conferences organized by the military. There is the curse campaign done to name and shame generals. There is this initiative called Let's Report Pro-Military Facebook pages. Protesters sat in the streets holding leaves of the Eugenia tree, and this is my favorite. It came to be known as the light brown Eugenia leaves revolution. Eugenia leaves in Myanmar signify victory. And then humor is also present in the resistance. Residents also mocked the police and military by shouting Happy New Year when sound bombs were used in the communities. We saw frontline protesters wearing do-it-yourself vests and construction hats. Protesters have been placing the pictures of Min How Long on the streets, the general, head of the military junta. They placing pictures of him on the streets or on the ground in front of defense barriers based on the belief that soldiers stepping on the face of their leader could be accused of showing disrespect. Then there is this so-called women's sarong defense line, which draws from the superstition that male soldiers who go under a clothesline used for women's clothes, particularly women's sarongs and underwear, would fall in battle. Later on, protesters would rectify and vow to fight tyranny and misogyny. We saw irregular protests because they are being held in the evening or dawn to avoid being arrested. People, less protests, were organized and other guerrilla actions. For the next hour, let us learn more about the situation in Myanmar. We hope that aside from providing you with the updates about the coup and the resistance, it will inspire us to offer solidarity and our commitment to support Myanmar's fight for democracy. And so to our brothers and sisters in Myanmar, continue the struggle and the world will be on your side. Before we hear the presentation of our next speaker, let us listen to a testimony sent by a citizen journalist and resident from Myanmar.
Since the February 1st coup, people have taken to the streets every day to demand the restoration of democracy, defying crackdowns by the security forces in which more than 700 people have been killed. Helpless and terrified people's residences are raided by soldiers and police during night operations in which they arrest people for defending their freedom or sometimes without any reason at all. Arrested civilians are brought back dead to their family the next day, or the family members are told to come and take the dead bodies away after paying a high price, or else funeral ceremonies take place without the deceased. Since the coup, the civil disobedience movement, which most people call the CDM, has gathered support from people from a wide range of professions, led by medical and healthcare workers, and later by Myanmar trained workers. Bankers, lawyers, teachers, and engineers across the nation have also demanded the military return the elected government to power and are refusing to return to work. Many civilians are supporting the CDM by donating and fundraising to support CDM participants financially. But striking doctors, teachers, government staff, campaign supporters, and celebrities who promote CDM are also being charged as criminals and detained by the junta. In spite of the arrests, however, the movement has been growing stronger and larger with each passing day. As a citizen of Myanmar, I would like to emphasize that we, the people of Myanmar, support the CDM and believe that it is important to resist the junta in every possible way. The success of this effort to overthrow the evil military junta also depends on the international community's recognition of the will of the people of Myanmar to restore the democracy that was stolen from us. Our legitimately elected representatives have formed the CRPH, a national unity government in exile, in an attempt to defy and discredit the country's ruling military regime, restore civilian rule, and establish a federal union. The National Unity Government has received deep support from every ethnic community and religious groups in Myanmar, who recognize it as the one and only government of Myanmar. Accordingly, I would like to urge members of the international community to recognize our elected government and help us restore our stolen democracy so that peace and stability may flourish in Myanmar once again. Thank you.
Thank you. That is once again a testimonial from a resident from Myanmar. And it gave us an overview of the defiance by the Myanmar residents in challenging the coup and the efforts of various sectors to form a counter body to challenge the coup. Thank you once again for your testimony. For our next speaker, please welcome Samu. She is a Karen environmental and indigenous activist and journalist working for the Karen Environmental and Social Action Network, a nonprofit environmental organization in the Thai-Burma border. Samu will discuss the situation of ethnic communities, the impact of the coup in the provinces, and how people are resisting the military junta. Samu, welcome.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Samu, and I'm working with KISA, Current Environmental and Social Action Network. And thanks for the opportunity to be part of this webinar and share about my experience and to share about my people suffering. So I think I will start with my presentations. In my presentations, I have three points to talk about the current what happened in the current state, Myanmar, Burma. So the first is like because I will just talk about the recent one. It's recent airstrike. No, on the 27th of March, we heard the news about the airstrike in current state in Mudra district. We also call Pampu, and there are some people got injured and died. And this is like in we call the area is Depuno, but there's so many villages there, around 8,000 people in that area. This is part of current state. Let me share about the current state is we have 7 districts. We have 7 districts, but this is only in one district. Can you go back to the last slide? Yes. So the Burmese army conduct aggressive airstrike in Depuno. It's a lot. We call the Selwi. It's close to the Selwi River, in a village in Mudra district, and where you might heard about the Selwi Peace Park is located. So people there really need peace, but now the airstrike, yeah, So many right now I think more than 20 more than 20 or almost 30 people already died, but for the like the Shelley and the airstrike. So let me show you the map that the recent airstrike on 27 March. So in many different places. Next slide. Yes, this is you can see this is after the airstrike. Some house totally burned. Some because you can see the concrete building, so it's you can see that each day has some, but in the other side you can see nothing at all. Next, please. Yeah, this is also in another area. Another area, but like Mudra, they have 3 townships. Depuno, we call the one that the first photo that I show is in Luther Township. This one is in Duelo Township. Maybe you can check in the map. So because we don't have much time, so we can go quickly slide by slide. Yeah. This is you can see the bomb that they bomb it into Korea area. And then another things I just to share about the humanitarian situation, and like because of the fighting, our villagers along the Selvi River, there's already the we call refugees. The refugees are already there, like 3,000 refugees, and then after the airstrike, there are more IDPs. We call internally displaced person. Yeah. So they start have to flee, and then hiding in the jungle. You can see in the photo. I just put only some photo here. And then they like when the airstrike, it is very difficult. It's nighttime, so it's very difficult to like to find the way where to go. So they just run by themselves. Some children, they cannot find their parents. It's very, and then if I talk about it, I just want to cry. Let me breathe a little bit. Yes, and then because I used to be an IDP like them, but this one is too heavy for me. I mean, because they drop the bomb everywhere, so where you can run? So some people like I mean got injured and died. I can imagine that because maybe they run in the wrong way. We are not sure. So whatever, after that they have to hide and they run without anything. Just they are clothed and then they just run and hide in the safe place. They try to find a safe place. And then some people arrive the border, like Thai Burma border. So, but to cross the border, we have to get a permission from Thai. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit hard for them, because if the Thai authority didn't allow them, they cannot cross. They just have to stay there and suffer there. But at that date, I think on 28, because the airstrike is on 27. So at that day, the terror authority just allowed them to cross, like because of they came with the jet, the airplane, and also the drone. So the people, the villagers are really afraid. Nobody don't want this kind of happening in their areas, because they said, "Oh, we want peace." We thought that we already got peace. Like in my presentation, you can learn more about it. Like in 2012, our leaders, Korean National Union, they signed the bilateral agreement, peace agreement, and then in October 2015, they signed the agreement about nationwide ceasefire. So the civilian, I mean the Korean people, they thought that there will be peace in our areas, but it's become the nightmare return for them. Or the next, this is yeah. Or maybe I just go very very fast. I mean, I cannot control. So, can you go back to up the last light? Yeah, this is artillery and ground troops. It's almost every day right now. Like because our leaders, like Mudra leaders, we call KNU leaders in Mudra, they asked the Burma Army base, I mean their camps, to withdraw their camps in that area, because the villagers they have to I mean they have to go to their farm, they have to travel for their life, like to travel and go and do things freely, but actually because of this they cannot go anywhere. They're afraid because of the shelling and the bombing, so it is more difficult for them to uh, live in peacefully. Like like in just only in Mudro, we call one district. I already explained about we have 7 districts. This is only one district in Mudro district. It has over 80 outposts in that area. So it is really difficult for the villager to stay safe as a I mean no human rights for them. And also I just want to mention about like in 2020 the our leaders also asked them to withdraw some outposts, but they are not, and then there will be a tension between our leaders and them, and then since end of December 2020 the fighting started, and then 2021 the fighting started happening in that area, and then after the coup, worse situation become worse. Now in that area, I mean only in Mudro, or not only Mudro, and some other part of Mudro, we can say that the internally displaced population is like around 40,000 already. Next slide. Yeah, you can see this is the artillery mortar that is shell into the current village. They just shell whatever they want. They didn't care anything to the village, to their farm, everywhere, to the road. Yeah. So can you imagine that? Oh. So, this is our briefly talk about it. The existing tension clash before the coup. I already explained about it. The next slide. So, this is like recognizing ethnic indigenous resistance and struggle for self-determination and cultural autonomy. Like our grand people, we have to suffer for many years already. Our revolution in more than 70 years already. The decade-long struggle for self-determination and cultural autonomy continue with growing militarization of the Burmese army in current territories and militarization, capitalism, and extremism, which threaten the livelihood and security of the current people. It's this is I talk about the Korean people. It's only one ethnic in Burma, but our other brother and sister in ethnic area also suffer like us too. More than anything, the people of Kotule we call is a Korean area. Is we call Kotule. So, long to live on their own ancestral land in peaceful coexistence with other ethnic people and community in Burma. The Selvi Peace Park with current Mudra district offer an alternative to top-down aggressive military rights development and offer a model of indigenous community-based governance that conserve the rich biodiversity of the region. It offers a way to build true peace, reconciliation, and a shared future, promoting the indigenous knowledge, producing and Ko. We call in Korea we call Ko. It's a customary land management. Just customary land in English. So we have the Selvi Peace Park in that area, in Mudra district. We established the Selvi Peace Park. So I sent the clip just only 1 second and 30 minutes. 1 second, 1 minute and 30 seconds. Yeah. But we can continue to show the other photo, the slide. I mean. So right now, I just want to, because this presentation we can share to other people, and I don't want to go through everything. I just want to talk about the recent. I mean the recent what's happening right now, and then what the people needs right now in Korean area. The Burmese army send more troops to that area. Our leader said that they might do a big operation in that area. I mean, in Korean areas there. So the villagers are so afraid, and then they are trying to hide in the jungle, and they want to cross to Thailand, but they cannot yet because the Thai government said that this is not the active fighting yet. if the fighting and bombing, so you can go to Thailand. We can accept that. But right now, they just but the Burmese army shelling, bombing almost every day, like shelling the artillery. So it's really very sad for me to see my people face these kind of things. So, uh, so I just want to say that we need the international community support to pressure the military to stop offensive, and the international community and people who can help people like this in needs. So we really need help. The problem, the needs for them, like food, that's just a basic food, medicine, and shelter. That's all they ask for. Thank you.
Thank you, Samu, for your presentation. And welcome again to the readers and viewers who have just arrived to watch our episode. You're watching a webinar of Global Voices Insights webinar series about Myanmar's coup and civil disobedience. As Mu mentioned in her talk, there are many ethnic groups in Myanmar. There are more than 100 ethnic groups in Myanmar. Some of them are fighting for self-determination, engaged in armed struggle for several decades already. In short, a civil war has been raging for many decades in Myanmar. And one of the programs of the previous government, the NLD, before the coup, was to pursue peace talks between the national government, the Myanmar government, and these ethnic groups. Although peace negotiations did not lead to a final peace pact. The coup has a tremendous impact in ethnic communities, and based on what Samu presented, the airstrikes have a tremendous impact on the civilian population. I have to emphasize that the pictures of protesters we are seeing in news reports only cover the urban areas. But based on Samu's talk, the airstrikes are really affecting the rural population. In many states in Myanmar, especially in the northeast part of Myanmar, internet has been cut off before the coup for many months. And second, the ethnic armed groups have issued statements condemning the violence inflicted on protesters, and they vow to defend protesters from Myanmar's military. And some of the protesters sought refuge in these ethnic communities. And in recent weeks, based on what Samu presented, the fighting has resumed in many ethnic communities, and the airstrikes have really affected, displaced the civilian population. Some wanted to flee to neighboring countries. But I think the fourth aspect of this issue is that there is now a national unity government. So when we say national unity government, it does not just mean the opposition party. It now includes the opposition party and the ethnic armed groups, which has been previously fighting the national government. And there is now a talk of a federal army that will challenge the Myanmar military. So thank you, Samu, for your presentation and for giving concrete examples of what the coup, especially the airstrikes, have been doing to our communities in affecting the current people. And now
Thank
for
you.
before the next speaker, let's listen to another testimonial from a Myanmar resident.
It's never been this hard. There is pain, grief, and loss. And it is not easy to manage so many emotions at the same time. More than 700 people have been killed by the junta. More than 3,000 currently detained, sentenced, and warrants have been issued for 970. Those detained are tortured, and their tortured faces are shown on state TV every night. But hats off to the brave people of Myanmar who are not accepting the rule of the military junta and joining the civil disobedience movement, protesting every day and night. The kids from my neighborhood still bang pots every night at 8 p.m., knowing that they could get arrested for this. Yangon, the commercial capital where I live, has been taken over by the military junta. All you see is small undernourished boys carrying guns that weigh more than them, cordoning off roads, harassing and intimidating innocent civilians at checkpoints. I leave my smartphone home when I go to my local wet market. Most of us have switched to keypad phones to stay safe. Plus, there is no point in taking a smartphone because there is no cellular data or internet available. On top of that, there is a night curfew and night raids that have increased. I worry for my friends. Some of them have safely left the country and others are in the ethnic areas where the real action is happening. The Myanmar military has a 70-year history of fighting battles in ethnic areas. Many in their urban centers have only heard about these atrocities. Some never even believed that the Tatmadaw was responsible for the genocide in Rakhine or killed people in Kachin or northern Shan. The last 3 months have exposed the military junta and its leader, General Min Aung Hlaing. With the continued violence, the European embassies have asked their citizens to leave Myanmar. Only a handful of expats are left in the city. In the earlier days of the civil disobedience movement, we witnessed expats joining the protests in big numbers, but they were then pressured by their embassies to lie low and think about their own security first. A local friend of mine said to me, "It's like domestic violence. They want expats to leave so no one is there to see the atrocities done by the Tatmadaw." Many Myanmar residents who can afford to leave have also left for neighboring countries. Many refugees are crossing the border into Thailand and India. Many young people, especially the Generation Z pro-democracy protesters, have taken refuge in the areas controlled by the ethnic armed organizations. The struggle for a new Burma is real, though the question is whether the world is ready to recognize the National Unity Government of Myanmar, or if they will continue to support military dictators and villains. I wish and pray that we get to see new Burma soon.
Thank you. That is another testimonial from Myanmar resident sent to Global Voices before the webinar. Before we proceed to our next speaker, I'd like to acknowledge our viewers from Prague, Argentina, Brussels, Bangladesh, Rome, Yangon, Uganda, and Madagascar, and of course, in other countries as well. Thank you for watching the Global Voices webinar on Myanmar coup and civil disobedience. For our next speaker, let us welcome Ben Crocs. He is a Hong Kong-based Barcamp curator and a trainer on new media communication technology and skills. Ben has experience doing business in Myanmar and will discuss how people there are dealing with the military crackdown and how people from the outside can help. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Mo. I have been visiting Myanmar since 10 years ago, and I can still remember a lot of young face, nice people welcoming us foreigner, and they are very enthusiastic to learn. So my goal is to promote information technology in Southeast Asia and organizing events and supporting new startups. Myanmar have been very promising. There's a huge number of young people show up in our technology sharing event, and we witnessed a very rapid development in the telecom and internet space for the past 10 years. I still remember the first time I go to Myanmar that owning a mobile phone is a really privileged thing. And then I had to pay over 1,000 US dollar to just get access to the very limited internet. But just 4 years later, I think this is about 2015, internet had been very popular. And I'm glad that I have been supporting people such as those from MIDO who have been very actively promoting mobile internet and then the internet literacy among rural people. And because of that, I think that a lot of foreigners, just like me, we have the first-hand experience, and then we explore the business opportunity, and then to try to do some further collaboration with local people. I do know a lot of friends from Japan, from Korea, from China. We rush to Myanmar and try to see what we can do, and then at the same time, we also learn from the local culture. There's a lot of people that have been doing well, while some of us are still having doubt about the new government, because the NLD League government does not seem very experienced to handle business, commercial law, and setting up business opportunity. But in general, a lot of peers, especially local people, they have the hope in their future, and they are trying to learn fast and then develop themselves and get ready for their new life. But since February, the situation declined rapidly. After the military coup, the internet has been disrupted almost all in a sudden. Although I would say that the military government, at initial, they don't want to just make things worse. They want to try to persuade business people, and especially those running factory in Myanmar, that everything just a business as usual. But because of the CDM, and because no one, no citizen, no expert is believing in this very brutal government body, so they try to just give up persuading, and then they try to destroy the communication channel and also the monetizing channel. So after March, I would say that even though there is a lot of people still trying to maintain business and then help ordinary people to get to have a job, to get paid, or to have food, but it is really, really difficult, especially when those people in big town, they even had to face the figurative release from prison. They are not political prisoners, but they have been accused of bribery, war, and then vaping. These are the people who are being released by the military body, and they set fire. They also have a rumor that they try to poison the water. So after about 6 to 8 weeks approaching mid-April, I think over half of my friends who are foreigners and have been working in Myanmar to help this country develop had to face a very difficult decision. We are needing to just giving up everything we try to set up in this country. So if we are just thinking about our family, our asset, then it is no reason to really stay in the country, because there is no opportunity. The Western country and even Japan, Korea, they all have stopped supporting business and providing everything we need to just continue the manufacturing or the logistics to trade with the other world. And then the military, they are actually robbing from our access, and then they are trying to take people away. Those who are well-educated are most dangerous one. A lot of young students, actually, they are the very promising people in the labor force, or just innovating the society and the industry. They are being caught because they are the the most active one in the opposition. And then most of the bank, they either participate in the CDM, which at first try to cripple the supply of the military, but in the long run, everyone is getting affected. We have tried many means to help the people by wiring money, by sending resources, but we know that this is actually no life of a supply that is safe from the robbing and thieving of the military. If we just send resources by the land road or by the seaport, we have to assume that everything we send to Myanmar are being investigated and held by the military, and we never can expect they get into the hands of those in need. And if we want to try to send money to support the people, make sure that they have a baseline of a livelihood, the bank cannot help us. And we had to try to contact some people who can have a better reserve at home. And then we give credit line to other people and just tell them that if you leave Myanmar, we will refund you. So at this moment, please help your neighbors. But I'm glad that to know a lot of these elite in Myanmar, they're not going to sidelight with the military or those who have power but not civilized in working with other people. These people, they're willing to share, and this is why I think a lot of Myanmar ordinary people can still have some hope, because the better one they're going to share with them, and then they would like to also share the information, the support from the world. But we have to confirm that because of the outer world is so disconnected from Myanmar. Even though I am in Hong Kong and there is a lot of businessmen in Myanmar that actually come from Hong Kong, most of the Hong Kong citizens never learn about Myanmar except knowing some names such as the Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi or the recent massacres of people. But when we trying to just tell about the situation, about the cities, about what the people do there, they have a lot of doubt because they have never experienced these kinds of atrocity. I mean, in Hong Kong, and that's why Hong Kong people have faced a lot of atrocity ourselves, witnessed firsthand in this city in recent years. So we have a lot of sympathy among with Burmese people, and that's why we try to echo with them as the multi-alliance, and we try to show support to them. But there's a so limited way for us to work out. But I think at least we need to help them to promote what is happening and why Myanmar as a country is actually very promising. If they have a chance of organizing a peaceful government which respect the people. They are very smart and they are very energetic. They are young and they are hopeful. They are friendly to the foreigner and they are willing to embrace the world. I think this is the most important message I want to convey to the world. And now I would like to also share some strategy that they use after the internet is being crippled. So one thing they do very well is that a lot of these educated people, they try to use a very limited communication infrastructure, most likely the optic fiber. When they share information, they try to write down or print or just do some handwriting on some one-pager newspaper, and they share with the neighbor. And then what they do is that they try to copy or just to tell just mouth to ear to each other to maintain everyone getting informed of the most important news. So this kind of rudimentary journalism is still happening, and so people are still having a hope that because they trust in each other, they're willing to share, and then there is some information telling them what to do next. Another thing is that for this new generation of Burmese people, they are embracing the social media. They're very innovative in creating and running campaigns across the country, and also raising attention of Burmese overseas. For one of the example is the Bullshit Day yesterday. There's a lot of those who are still paying attention to Myanmar, and that the Bullshit was, I would say, this is not a tradition, but a legacy of a prominent protester, U Wintin, who had been telling people, because he is wearing a bullshit in the patient, he hoped to just wear the bullshit until there is no political prisoner in Myanmar. So this U Wintin, he had died 7 years ago, and right now, Burmese people is trying to following his step to remember every friends and brother and sister in the prison. So they show up with bullshit. They just show their hand with a name of the people who they know are missing, no matter they are in prison or maybe being hurt, or maybe just escaping the country. They're trying to tell each other that we still remember you and we still care about you. So this is a very extraordinary solidarity, which is only happening in Myanmar. We will say that even in Hong Kong or in Thailand, who have been setting up examples for doing protests, we are not in such great solidarity. So we think that maybe Burmese people, after a better organization, with their solidarity and determination, they can just heal a big child of democracy and helping each other in the whole ASEAN nations. Also, so one bad news is that for us, we know that a lot of those who have been matured in the past 2 months who died because of the killing of the military or the disease. So the militaries are not going to respect them. Even their borough, that I know that in Bagu and in many townships, we have connection. We heard that the military is trying to dig up their tomb and just to explore their corpse. And for those who are kidnapped by the military, some of them are returned as a dead body with a stitch on their body. When people, especially those doctors and nurses, try to examine them, they find that the organs, some of them are missing. Some of them will even have 2 eyeballs missing. We cannot 100% confirm what happened to them, but we think that there's also kind of a organ selling among the military people who have been kidnapping these people. So I think that we, as just a civilized person, we cannot let this happen. I know that maybe some people will recall what had happened in Xinjiang in China. I think this is really bad. Chinese have been suffering a lot about this, and we don't want to see other people, especially our Asian peers, suffering as well. And we think that we need the global community to really pay attention and say no to this kind of atrocity. And we need to see some action supporting the national unity government to get hold and then to kick out the military coup. I think this is all I want to share today.
Thank you, Ben, and for your presentation. You talk about how during the previous government there were many business opportunities. There were investors who saw hope in Myanmar's new government, and suddenly the coup had a tremendous negative impact in the business community. Suddenly investors left, and there's now a bleak prospect for the business community. You mentioned about the young labor force, and at the same time you saw hope in the work of young protesters. They're innovative. They're using social media and communication tools to distribute information.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you. And before we proceed to the open forum, perhaps for those who have been watching the webinar in the past hour, you heard so many acronyms. So to refresh our knowledge about Myanmar, this is just a few. When we say NLD, that means National League for Democracy. It refers to the previous incumbent government, the party which won the recent election. It is the party in power since 2015. And when you hear CDM, that is Civil Disobedience Movement. That is the movement launched by the citizens in challenging the coup. And one of the features of the CDM is medical frontliners not reporting to work, civil servants not reporting to work, general strike by workers. And then you heard from the three of us that the acronym NUG, that is National Unity Government, representing not just the NLD but also the ethnic parties in forming a united coalition against the junta. And then when you read SAC in news reports, that is the State Administration Council, referring to the official name of the military government in Myanmar. So let's now proceed to the open forum. We have a question here from the Philippines, Owen from the Philippines. I think Samu can answer this. And perhaps Ben also can answer this as well. Is an armed revolution necessary if the military coup will not heed the endless protests? What do you think about this? Samu?
Yes. It's an armed revolution. It's just Oh, this is a very hard question for me to answer.
I understand, no? But at the same time, we can also say that the tactics of many protesters are purely defensive in terms of trying to prevent from being injured or killed by the attacks from the military. Let's just say that the ongoing protests, whether in the urban and rural, is mainly defensive and intended to call for the legitimate demand for the restoration of democracy. But before we proceed to the next question, perhaps Ben can also try to answer the question.
Yeah, I would say that we cannot neglect the conflict in the last 17 years, that the armed ethnic groups or the students who have been once armed themselves after the Quadruple Eight uprising. So we need to respect them because they have been protecting the people. But can we call this armed revolution? I have doubt about it, because the Tamador, which is the military, the central military among the Burmese, they are very huge. Then, if you want to match their number, you need to have about tens of times of the armed force which the ethnic group have right now, and you need to support them. And when the firearms are everywhere, can you really secure the peace, the livelihood of ordinary people? It is really hard to answer that. But instead, I think that what happened right now is that there is a recognition revolution happening in Myanmar, especially among those elite Burmese, the majority of the major race, that they recognize that they cannot support their own Tamador anymore. They're learning about the atrocity against the minority, and then also against themselves. We had to control the supply of these firearms to such a country in order to just lower the chance that people get hurt. So I'm not sure because maybe one day we have still rely on such kind of military action to just smooth the situation. But firearm is a very dangerous thing. So it can used by any kind of people to oppress others. So it happened among some of the ethnic group and even among some corrupted student leader in the past. So we have to be careful. But we need to trust the people and we need to believe that with enough information, they will change their mind. And they even some of the military people, they have been changing their mind.
Yes, you mentioned the military or police defecting to the ranks of the protesters. That's also a trend we saw in recent months. Okay, for the next question, I think Samu can answer this. Samu, the question is from Philip. Are neighboring countries, especially Southeast Asian countries, the ASEAN, are they playing a positive and responsible role in the crisis?
Oh, thanks for your question. These very good questions. Yeah, I think yes, they play a positive role, and they try to like help the people who in need. At least, I mean, so, but we need more. Not only like we just release the statement, and then we post on the Facebook. We did a conference. It's not enough. So we have to think about what we have to do to help these people who in needs. So we have to talk about it, and then we have to discuss and like continue helping people who in needs. I mean, who's suffering for very brutal these things like right now, like airstrike or killing. We don't want to see the killing. We don't want to see the blood anymore. We want peace. We really need peace. So we really want to work together and then try to find the solution, the best solution for this. I mean, this movement.
Thank you, Samu. And a few days from now, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Ministers will have a meeting on Myanmar. I think it will take place on April 24. So, since the question is related to ASEAN, what will be your message to ASEAN heads of states about what action should ASEAN enforce on the issue of Myanmar? What will be your message to ASEAN leaders? Ben, you can also answer after Samu.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Of course. Very. I'm so happy to have an opportunity to send the message for the ASEAN country, like our leaders. I mean, like because you know, as a human, do you want to see the people die? Your people die. Other people die. So they. But I heard that the military and for the Myanmar, I mean the government of Myanmar. I'm not sure they will intend. I heard that I read in the news they will intend online. So it's okay, but I just want to send the message that we are part of ASEAN, so we need you. We need all of them. We need our neighbors' country to help us to end this conflict, end this civil war. We don't want to see the conflicts, the very sad things like this anymore. Because I'm the one. I'm now over 30 already. But since I was a child, I have to run for my life. So for the next generations, we want them to be stay peacefully, like other people have, like the peaceful country, like they have their right to education, freedom of expression, everything. I want them to be like that. So we want them to help Myanmar to end the we want to to end dictatorship, we need real peace and freedom.
Thank you, Samu. Ben?
Well, I would say in another perspective, I think that ASEAN is every country is now trying to develop with the new infrastructure and the new economy. We have to understand the importance of a civilian opportunity, and then if we want to do it good, we cannot leave one of the important neighbor in behind. So look at how Indonesia and Malaysia develop right now. That the biggest opportunity is that people had a chance to express themselves, and then they can have a really good civilian commerce channel, and then they can just they have been well educated, and they just use that ability to do good to each other. This is the global trend. It is how you can live better. And if you are allowing the military government to oppress the people and do nasty things like that, what you will see is that a lot of people will become refugee. They will impact your economy. They would give rise to the crime rate, because they are those people without support. And you need to support them. You need to support the white people. And so I think the Asia community really need to get connected with the new peaceful aim.NUG in order to establish each other with trust, and also explore the opportunity to bring forth economy with more collaboration, but not just trying to laugh at each other, or just take opportunity because others are doing bad. This is not the case. I think we need to just really being in solidarity among all Asian world. It has been also my own experience running and promoting information technology and startup in the region.
Thank you. I hope the appeals of Samu and Ben will reach our ASEAN leaders who will convene in a few days. For our next question, I think Samu can also answer this. This is a comment from Vault Dweller 97 official. And the comment is, if the army completely loses its power, I would be afraid that the country would become unstable. What do you think about this comment? I'm also reading some of these comments in some news reports as well, that the army is there to enforce stability. If the army will lose power, there will be chaos in Myanmar, referring to the ethnic conflicts.
If the army completely loses its power, then I would be afraid the country could become unstable. So, very difficult question again. Oh, I think it's not the army loses power. It's better than the people. I mean, the people in Myanmar work together like a federal union, like we talk about. It's better than the army coup. I mean, the military centralization with that, and then the what can I say? The military own military. Military govern us. I mean, to be our government. It's better than all ethnic groups and like I said, work together. It's better than the military control us. That's a very simple answer that I can say that.
Yeah, I think that's also a good point, because just to paraphrase what Samu has been saying, that instead of the army in power, the alternative being presented by the protest movement is that there could be a federal government composed of federal army that could enforce stability in the country. And the NUG, I think, is a step forward in that because they are offering themselves as a counter to the army. Because the NUG or National Unity Government is composed of the previous mainstream party and ethnic parties. Instead of the military junta, which has been in power for several decades and did not lose influence in the cabinet and in parliament, which has whose trust among the people is low. So I think that's what Samu is saying.
Yeah, yes.
Ben,
So
yeah,
much.
Ben, would you like to add some points?
Okay, so I have a very simple reply that over the past 17 years, so-called control by the military government, Myanmar had never be stable. Every day there is the Bashir and there is a war against minority people. There's a lot of people flee the country. So how can we call this is a stable country? Even right now, in those big cities, which once have been quite promising, are they doing well? No, because what we need is not just a military, but there's a rule of law. There's a rule that is respected by everyone, and then people have to treat each other equal. Actually, I think that in these 2 months, a lot of Burmese, they start thinking about they're not doing good and they're not understanding their minority fellows, and they're now reflecting themselves. And this is why the NUG is having a huge step, not just composed of a many or proportional Burmese representative. They're trying to do better. So I think we need to give them a chance. We cannot ensure that without the current military, especially their experience and dealing with other superpower or illegal group, can they the new government can handle everything very well? I am not sure about that. But we need to give them an opportunity and we need to help them. If we just are trying to say, okay, the military can just hold status quo, I tell you that they're not doing that. Otherwise, that I will keep doing business in Myanmar. Now I have to give up. Everything is zeroed, ground zeroed. I can't say that is stable.
Thank you, Ben. We ran out of time for the webinar, so perhaps we will ask Samu and Ben to give a final message addressed to our global audience about their message to the international community regarding the current situation in Myanmar. So perhaps, Samu, you can go first.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Yes, you know well that we have been suffering for so many years, so we really need your help and like pressure this brutally dictatorship in Burma to end their action to the ethnic people in Myanmar. And we are ethnic people, indigenous people. We really need peace. Like our ancestors live, we used to listen to their story that they live in very peaceful. So we really need peace. So this is our message that I want to say first. We don't want war. We want peace. That's it.
Thank you, Samu. Ben?
So I think that we as a global citizen had to step forward and to be more responsible. We need to learn about the suffering of others in order to safeguard ourselves. We Hong Kong people have been doing business and feel that it's very okay. We are all happy being rich and then very affluent. But right now in these 2 years, we almost lost everything. Lost our own freedom. lots of hope of future. Why do we face that? Because we are leaving every others behind, and then we think we are okay. That's not okay. We need to step forward, and then we need to respect others. We need to learn about them. We need to just use our own knowledge to empower each other in order to make the world a little better. And then in this crisis, even in this crisis, my friends in Myanmar, those Burmese and other minority, they're trying to understand the suffering of African people, suffering of the Xinjiang people, and also suffering of the Hong Kong people. They learn a lot, and I think they will be a very good global citizen if they can have a peaceful country and good communication channel. And I think that with such kind of a goodwill, we can have a better life.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Samu, for joining the webinar. I believe our readers with this message from a Myanmar citizen who sent this before the webinar. And I quote, "The pandemic has a vaccine to protect and patients could be recovered. But there is no vaccine to protect unarmed civilians from random shootings, tortures, sending back dead bodies to their families next morning after being arrested and brutal oppression by the military butchers. The military junta could only terrorize our country, but they cannot rule. They could shoot, kill, and arrest our young heroes called spring flowers, but they cannot avoid the Burma spring." End of quote. Thank you for joining the webinar of Global Voices. Please visit the website globalvoices.org to read our coverage of events and topics from around the world in over 30 languages. From the site, you will be able to sign up to receive our daily and weekly newsletters. And please follow us on Twitter at Global Voices and at GV Southeast Asia, and on Facebook and YouTube. Special thank yous to our friends in Myanmar for providing the testimonials and for their coverage of the coup, to Guhari and Veroniki for narrating them, and to the artist Badjukau for the use of his graphic in the show opening and promotional materials. Once again, this is Mong Palatino from Manila, Philippines. Thank you for joining the Global Voices webinar.